Coming up next, What the K-Pop's special broadcast in honor of SHINee's Jonghyun. Stay tuned.
남자들이 가만 안 둬 흔들리는 그녀의 맘 사실 알고 있어 그녀에게 사랑은 한순간의 느낌일 뿐 뭐라 해도 나에게 삶의 everything 그녀는 어디가 부담스러운가 봐 날 바라보는 눈빛이 말해주잖아 And I think I'm gonna hate it girl 끝이 다가오는 걸 가슴이 말해준다 누가 뭐래도 난 너무 예뻐 그녀를 보면 난 미쳐 하지만 이젠 지쳐 Replay 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 맘을 밝혀 아파서 이젠 맘을 고쳐 다가올 이별은 Replay 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 yeah. 누나 나의 MVP 부러움에 뿌듯했지 내 시선 집중 그녀와 함께 나는 so cool 제발 이 손을 놓지 말자던 나의 다짐은 어느 순간부터 거짓인 걸 알아 이제 모두 아는 걸 러브하는 몸짓을 말하고 있잖아 wanna feel it right 다가오는 걸 가슴이 소리친다 이별 앞에서 너무 예뻐 하지만 이젠 지쳐 You make me wanna 내 맘을 핥혀 I need it We need a replay 그녀는 아직까지 누구와 진실된 사랑의 맛을 본 적이 없는 게 분명해 아쉽게도 그녀는 아직도 나에게 진실된 사랑의 마음을 받을 수 없는 시 너무 예뻐 그녀를 보면 나는 하지만 이젠 지쳐 Replay I need a replay 나는 Replay Baby I need you Replay replay Yeah 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 그녀 보는 내 맘 견딜 수 없을 거야 Replay
And welcome back, you guys. This is Amy. I'm going to be your DJ for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us here on What the K-Pop on the WTK Radio Network. If you're just now tuning in, this is going to be a special broadcast in honor of the late Kim Jonghyun of SHINee. This is something that What the K-Pop and WTK Radio wanted to do. We know that so many of you are still grieving and still have so many questions and things and are still trying to process the loss of this wonderful person. So we wanted to do this for a couple of reasons. We wanted to do this so that people could have an outlet where they could connect with other fans, especially if they didn't have a memorial or something in their area that they could attend. And we also wanted to do it for another reason, which we felt was really important. Since the death of Jonghyun, many fans have committed suicide or have attempted suicide, and others are also struggling again with self-harm and things like that. So with that in mind, we were very burdened about this, and just this was really heavy on our hearts. So we decided that we would seek the help of a counselor who's going to be on air with us tonight to answer some of your questions and hopefully give you guys some guidance on how to grieve in a healthy way and how you can make it through this. So we're very glad that you're all with us tonight. We will be talking about some heavy topics, so I just want you to be kind of forewarned. Now, it's going to be a kind of a longer broadcast, so the first part of the night and the longest part of the night, we'll be talking to our counselor as well as another special guest, and we'll be talking about topics like dealing with grief, how to know if you have depression or if your friends have depression, family members, and also what to do if you're feeling suicidal, if one of your loved ones is feeling suicidal. So I think they're very important topics. Some people may find them triggering, so if you don't want to listen to this part of the broadcast, that's totally fine. But we will be focusing on these topics first so that we can provide help for all those who are listening. And then later on in the evening, we'll have a smaller portion where we'll be talking more in depth about Jonghyun and sharing some of his music. And again, since some people might not be ready for that, or might not be ready to hear his music and all again, we're going to try to keep them kind of separated so that you can listen to the help part if you want and then turn off the music part later. Now, we will be playing some of his songs and some of SHINee's songs along the way in between talking with our counselor and everything. But we hope that will be okay. We're also going to listen just to some other K-pop songs or songs that we think, might just be a help or an encouragement. So first up, we are going to listen to one of SHINee's old songs, an old song, but a classic song, and this is Love Like Oxygen. After that, we'll be following up with Soyu and Kwon Jung-yeol's song Lean On Me.
듯한 투명한 내게 달콤한 동물 퍼지듯 하얗게 얼어붙은 내 오랜 상처가 너의 가슴 속 깊게 퍼져도 잡은 듯할 때 파고드는 그놈의 비는 날카로운 산소 같은 난 너만 들이쉬면 다시 내뱉을 수 없어 이 잔인한 고통 속에 내가 죽어가고 있잖아 차갑고 시리도록 투명한 너를 마시고 또 마셔봐도 하얗게 질리도록 달려온 만큼 너란 사랑의 목이 말라 잡은 듯할 때 스며드는 서퍼의 습격 이 부드러운 산소 같은 난 너만 들이쉬면 다시 내뱉을 got to know.
잘 알죠 모든 게 내 맘 같지 않을 때
아무리 뒤척여도 잠은 오지를 않고
전화 속 사람들 이렇게나 많은데 연락할
누구도 곁에 없을 때
혼자만 있고 싶어도 사실 외로울 때
웃어볼 기운도 없을 때가 있죠.
할 일은 쌓여서 산더미에 줄어들질 않고
자꾸 한숨만 나올 때 기대도 돼요 내게 With you 언제든 내게 기대 쉬어도 돼요 그대 With you 다 이해해
유난히 하루가 길게만 느껴질 때
집으로 가는 길 괜히 멀기만 하고
하고픈 이야기 정말 많았었는데
쓴 웃음 지으며 참아버렸죠.
누가 또 건드리기만 하면 금방이라도
울음이 터질 것 같을 때가 있죠.
언젠간 괜찮아질 거라고 애써 생각해도
자꾸 한숨만 나올 때 기대도 돼요 내게 With you 언제든 내게 기대 쉬어도 돼요 그대 With you 다 이해해 너만 이런 건지
혼자 힘든 건지
I know 잘하고 있단 걸 그렇게 속으로만
안고 있지 말고
You know 내가 곁에 있단 걸 기대도 돼요 내게 With you 언제든 내게 기대 쉬어도 돼요 그대 With you 다 이해해 다 이해해 다 이해해
We have a special guest on the line with us tonight who is going to be helping us with some tough topics. Jenny Huddleston, LPC, or Licensed Professional Counselor, is a counselor with Crossway Counseling Center in McDonough, Georgia, that's located in the metro Atlanta area. She's going to be helping us to answer some of the questions that our listeners sent in. So, Jenny, it's so great to have you join us tonight. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get started, I do want to make sure to point out something. Just as every counselor, doctor, and psychologist is different, each person and patient is different. So while Jenny can answer your questions to the best of her ability, her advice is in no way going to apply to each person listening. In addition, while she can give you practical advice based on her own expertise and experience, this shouldn't take the place of getting local help if you're struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts yourself. The most important thing for everyone listening is to find someone in person and locally that they can talk to, who can help diagnose or treat them properly, since they will be the ones to get to know you and talk to you in person. Later on in the broadcast, we will be providing you guys with some resources to help locate counselors and more in your own area. However, we do hope that the broadcast tonight will help people with some practical things for themselves, as well as for their loved ones who also may be struggling with some of the same issues that Jonghyun faced. Now, Jenny, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone and tell everyone listening a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yes, just as you said, my name is Jenny Huddleston. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Georgia, here in McDonough. I have been in practice for over 10 years, and I am a Christian counselor. Our counseling center is faith-based. We are Christians, but we also accept those who are of different faiths as well. We offer adult counseling, teen counseling, child and adolescent counseling, just anything under that umbrella. We're well-rounded in offering counseling services. Counseling, there's a big misconception and sometimes a big taboo about counseling. And one thing that we strive to do is try to break that stigma of mental illness, going to see a counselor, seeking help. Those are big barriers that are in the way of a lot of people feeling good and being their best in life.
Now, we're going to be splitting our talk with Jenny tonight into 3 different categories. And the first topic that we wanted to cover tonight is about grief and how we can grieve in a healthy way. So, Jenny, one of the biggest questions that we received this week, because we did open up our social media for listeners and for readers on What the Kpop to send in their questions and concerns after losing Kim Jonghyun of SHINee to suicide. And one of the biggest questions that we received is it normal to grieve over someone that you've never met? This is actually what one of our readers sent in. She said, people around me say it doesn't make sense to grieve over Jonghyun because I didn't know him. His talent was something that I could never overlook, however. I don't have anyone to just discuss this with and cry with. I tell people it's like Princess Diana. You didn't have to know her for her to have touched your life. I've been dealing with depression too, so maybe this is why it has affected me. Who knows and who really understands it all, right? That question was from a reader named Maidali. So what would you say to people who are wondering the same thing? Is it normal to grieve over someone that you've never actually met in real life before?
Absolutely. We live in a culture, we're very touched by music and entertainment and anything that kind of helps us to emotionally work through the everyday things that we deal with. Music is huge, and I think music is one of those things that reaches across all cultures. And each culture throughout the years has had different stars or idols or whatever that we focused on and that we've really come to identify with emotionally, because a lot of times that artist is singing about things that we're dealing with ourselves, and it really makes a big difference when you start to connect with them emotionally when they're dealing with the same things you are. It makes you feel like you're friends. It makes you feel like you're their buddy. So when something happens to them, you're grieving the loss of. It feels like a friend or someone who's very important in your life. So yeah, absolutely, it's normal.
Now, I know that that some of the people who also wrote in about this concern, they said that that they felt like they were being judged by their family and friends. So we actually had a father who wrote in about this topic as well, and he said that he had not been able to really wrap his mind around the fact that his daughter was grieving so much for someone that she had never met before, and although he was trying to understand, he was really struggling to do so. So what would you say to those family and friends who are trying to, but who are struggling to understand the grief of Jonghyun's fans in the face of his loss?
Put your misunderstanding aside and just be with them. Listen to them. Encourage them. You may not understand it right now, and that's all right. You don't have to know everything. Don't minimize how they feel. Don't put them in a position where you're telling them, well, just feel better, just get over it, or you'll feel better later. Really listen to them, hold space for them, be an advocate for them, ask them what they need, ask them how you can help. So sometimes, for the most part, when someone's grieving, they need someone to listen, and they need somebody to be present with them as they grieve. Let them know that they're not a burden. Let them know that they're safe. Let them know that they are very important and precious to them. So anything like that, anything that's going to encourage them to talk and get it out, those are some of the best things that you could do for someone.
Now, I know that the grieving process can be very different for each
person, right? So one of our readers wrote in to say that she's at the point where she's moving on and doesn't want to think about it anymore, while others wrote in and said that they're still struggling. And for example, we had one fan that wrote in and said that they couldn't listen to any of Jonghyun's music or watch any of his videos, while someone else was saying that that was what she was finding peace in. So while some are seem to be moving on, some are still struggling. So this is actually what one fan, Brittany, wrote in. She said, I finally passed the part of grieving where I just cry nonstop, and I'm at the acceptance and just missing him part. I don't feel like hanging out with friends as much, and sometimes I will just randomly remember what happened and become sad again. I lost him and my grandma all within 3 weeks, and I just wanted to know, is this normal? How does one cope correctly? What advice can you give to people like Brittany who are unsure what the normal grieving process looks like?
The grieving process, we're taught that, or it feels sometimes that it's supposed to be the same way for everybody. And if somebody's grieving differently, then, that means, well, there must be something wrong with me. The grief process is just as different as a fingerprint. Nobody has the same fingerprints as another. With the grief process, though, we've kind of found that there are certain patterns that most people follow when they go through the grief process. They go through the denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance phase. Sometimes you go through one phase, somebody else may be going through another phase at a different time. Grieving is something that can be, lifelong, depending on the relationship. Sometimes it can be, depending on the relationship, a little bit shorter. So there's no right way or wrong way to grieve. It all depends on how much it's affecting your daily functioning. That's what you need to look at.
That makes sense. And I guess that would also be the same, that you could tell people that you shouldn't feel guilty for being in a different place than someone else is, right?
Absolutely. Some people will have delayed guilt. They'll be in one stage for a lot longer than someone else. Some people are still in shock, and shock can go on for months, just like any of the other phases. So it all depends on who you are, depends on your personality, depends on your where you're at in life, depends on your beliefs. There's so many factors. Like I said, it's different, just like a fingerprint.
Now, what can you tell us about grieving in a healthy way? Are there recommendations that you have about how to deal with grief?
When it comes to grief, grief all depends on the relationship that you had with the person or the situation. And I say that because you can grieve not just people, but you can grieve situations. You can grieve life goals that were unachieved. You can grieve different things. But in this case, we're talking about people. It all depends on the support system that you have around you. You need a good support system if possible. I know different areas and different countries don't have that support system. And even here, in the States, we're not 100% stigma-free when it comes to mental health or depression or grieving. We're kind of stuck in a sense where it's taboo to reach out to people. We're supposed to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and we're supposed to move on like nothing happened. But when you do that, you're actually holding yourself back even more. So I think it's very important to pursue your faith. It's important to pursue the truth that you have in your life. Connect with friends, connect with churches, connect with small groups, people that are encouraging. Try to stay away from people who are toxic. Stick around people who are going to be there for you and that are true. Stick to positivity. Be around things that are positive. Try to stay away from things that are negative for a while. Give yourself a break.
Actually, another reader, Tamara, sent in this question, and she said, how do you know when you're depressed? I think a lot of people who have never experienced loss before, whether it's just that they're younger and have never had to do it or just never had anyone, very close or important to them that have passed away. I guess maybe some people that have never experienced that type of loss before are now wondering where's the line between grief and depression. So how do we know when to reach out for further help when it seems like we're not handling the grieving process well?
I think when it starts to affect your daily life, in a major way. And what I mean by that is, if you notice things like appetite changes, weight gain or weight loss, you're not going to hang out with friends or family as much as you used to. You're not sleeping, or you're sleeping too much. You don't have much energy. or you start to turn in on yourself and you start to feel worthless as a person or hopeless or discouraged. You really do need to be in tune with yourself and what your normal is, quote unquote. There's no one who's normal, but what your baseline is, so to speak. If you have trouble concentrating, or even if you have thoughts of hurting yourself or hurting someone else, you definitely need to reach out. I'm the type of person, I err on the side of caution. If it's getting worse, then you reach out. And if it ends up being nothing, that's better than, not reaching out and getting help. A lot of times a good thing to do is to turn your grief into something positive. Whether it's a fundraiser, whether it's raising awareness, doing anything in their memory, making a donation in their memory, just something that kind of keeps their memory alive. Those are the type of things. Do positive things if you need to keep that memory alive, but you feel like you're not doing enough.
Now, I have heard that, like you said, that doing something physical or tangible like that, like you said, fundraisers and different things, that those are also ways that can be a great tool to help you kind of move forward in the healing process. Is that correct?
Absolutely. When my mother passed away, I started a scholarship program in her memory. I don't have that scholarship program going anymore, but for that time, while it was going on, that was also a way for me to start healing from her death. So you may need to do this for just a little while, and then after a while you say, you know what, I feel like that's over, I'm going to go and do something else. So it's not something that you have to do for the rest of your life. It could be for just a season, because different things come into our lives in different times and different seasons. So even writing them a letter, sometimes writing someone a letter, and of course, you're not giving it to anybody, and it may be a letter that you burn later or tear up. Actually, I think it would be a good thing to take to a counselor and share the letter with a counselor, and they can help you kind of process through it. But sometimes writing a letter to somebody and telling them how you're feeling at that moment can help get things out of your mind and out of your heart and onto paper. And that makes a difference, too.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on grief. I guess the thing that we should take away from this is that everyone's grieving process is different. Everyone's grieving timeline is different. We should not feel guilty for being less depressed or more depressed or grieving in a different way. And just mostly for those who may not be understanding what Jonghyun's fans are going through, like family and friends, that they just need to, like you said, not understand it necessarily, but just be there for them. So thanks for your advice on grief. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about actual depression, and so stay tuned for that. We'll be listening to a few songs first, and then we'll be talking more with Jenny about depression. So stay tuned.
As Jenny was talking about being positive, I wanted to play this song. First of all, I do apologize for my voice today. I actually ended up having to have surgery today, and so I'm having a lot of issues, but I really wanted to still DJ this broadcast, since it's a topic that's very important to me as a fellow fan of SHINee and just with everything going on. But as Jenny said, we want to focus on the positive. So this was a great song. It's not K-pop, obviously. It's a classic song, though, and it's What a Wonderful World. It's sung by Louis Armstrong, and it's just a good reminder to focus on the positive things around us and the beauty that is still in the world, even when there is heartache and problems. So let's listen to that, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the
the sky are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
We are back again with Jenny Huddleston, licensed professional counselor. She's here to answer some of the questions that our readers have been sending in over the past few weeks since the unfortunate loss of Kim Jonghyun of SHINee. Now, Jenny, the loss of Jonghyun has made many people look at their own relationships around them. So if someone is worried about a family member or a friend who seems to be struggling with depression, what are some of the warning signs that we can look for?
It's very tricky, and I'll give you kind of a broad list of things. The problem is not everyone who is suicidal shows signs that they're suicidal. But some of the things we can look for are, withdrawing from friends and family, losing, not going to work as much, increased sick days when they're not really sick, maybe sleeping more. Any kind of mood swings or destructive behavior. Sometimes people can cut more and they make that more apparent to others. Poor eating, like I said, sleeping habits. Those are some things to kind of look for. Any kind of changes like that are very important to look at. Also, a lot of folks are scared to ask friends and family if they are suicidal. They're afraid to quote-unquote, put that idea in their head. And in reality, that's, if they're already thinking about it, that's not obviously putting it in their head. And, it never hurts to find out. So it's very important to look out for that person and potentially save their life.
Every person, as we know, deals with depression in different ways, right? So what are some of the different methods that people might need to help them manage their depression?
Before I answer that, let me tell you this. There's different types of depression. There's situational depression. There's depression based on maybe an event that's going on in your life right now. And there's also clinical depression. So definitely going to a counselor, a psychiatrist, or even your primary doctor. They can kind of see what's going on, whether it's a medical issue, because depression is, there's a medical issue there, or if it's situational. So usually pursuing or checking in with a psychiatrist or your primary doctor is the best. Initially, if you have, major depression that comes on out of nowhere, or go to the counselor. They can, either way, they're going to be able to kind of direct you where you need to go. Counseling is really good because a lot of times we have trauma and old things in our life, negative things that have happened to us. We have stressful situations that we've been through. We can develop things like anxiety and PTSD and different things like that. And all of that kind of builds up within a person. And I want to say this, suicide is not, suicide isn't an entity into itself. Suicide is a symptom of something deeper sometimes. So that's why we like for people to get into counseling, is so we can kind of, help them get some relief and get some coping skills and get some good things going in their lives so that we can start to work on that stuff. Sometimes medication is a tool. Sometimes group therapy is a tool. Sometimes, you may need a little bit more. You may need something where you come in every day. But anyway, everybody's different. We tailor counseling to each individual person, and those are different resources that we use.
Now, some of the people who contacted us have struggled with depression themselves, as well as anxiety, self-harm, etc. And even though their issues have been controlled for the most part recently, they found the loss of Jonghyun very triggering, and their depression has gotten worse, and some have harmed themselves again. What can you say to encourage those people? I mean, what do you think, what do they need to do really to get through this difficult time?
When you have, I kind of use my analogy of the suitcase. When people come to counseling, we all have a suitcase, and it's full of different things in our lives that we've collected, whether it be good or bad. And when we have a crisis in our life, sometimes that things get added to that suitcase, and it starts to kind of bulge. And if it gets too full and too overwhelming, the thing can pop open, and it's very overwhelming. One thing that we can do is, talk to someone that you trust. Find someone that you can trust. And at the end, we'll have some resources for you. But talk to somebody. If you have faith, dig into your faith. Talk to someone in counseling. Whatever you need to do, find ways to kind of relieve the pressure, so to speak. But it does make sense when you have issues in your life, and then you have another issue piled on top of it. It can topple, and it can feel like your world's falling apart. But that's not always true.
Now, in his suicide letter, Jonghyun actually confessed that one of the doctors who had been treating him in South Korea had implied that his depression wasn't real and that it was just due to his personality. So several of our readers were concerned about that, and one reader in particular, Milka, wrote in and asked, when doctors can't agree on whether or not someone's depression is a serious thing, how does it affect the patient? And I'd also like to add to that question by asking, when a doctor says that it's just our personality or that we don't have depression, should we just kind of truly accept that blindly, or should we seek another doctor or counselor if we still feel like something inside just truly isn't right?
It all comes down to advocating for yourself. If you go to a doctor or a counselor and you tell them what's wrong, and they give you an answer that just doesn't feel right, and that it doesn't sit well in your gut, get a second opinion. Seek out help until you find where you are comfortable and where you have peace and where you feel like you can do some healing.
So that's it for this corner on depression. Next up, we'll be talking about suicide and suicide prevention awareness. We have some great resources coming up for you guys, as well as some more answered questions from Jenny, our counselor, on air tonight. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back after a song.
무슨 생각하고 있나요? 혹시 나처럼 하루가 무거워 잠 못 이루는가요? 가슴 한 곳 어디가 멈춰버린 것만 같은데 어찌할까요 어떤 마음으로 살아가야 할까요 우리 사랑은 시작도 하지 아니하였답니다. 얼마나 그댈 사랑하는지 100분의 1도 하지 못했으니까 같은 사랑은 같은 인연은 기다리면서 없습니다. 텅 빈 마음으로 살아가는 나 그대 본다면 나무라질 테니까 같은 하루를 같은 시간을 한 몸처럼 지내는 게 분명합니다. 오늘이 가고 내일이 와도 이 맘은 자꾸만 더 자라납니다.
We are back once more with Jenny Huddleston, a licensed professional counselor from Crossway Counseling Center in McDonough, Georgia. And we are going to be talking about suicide now. Just for those listening, if you may find this topic kind of triggering, so I want you to listen at your own risk. Of course, we want to be able to address these topics in a way that will be helpful, but we also do want you to be warned that some people might find this topic a little too heavy for them. So, Jenny, while suicide doesn't always come about as a result of depression, it seems that more often than not, that's the biggest motivation. So how do you know when your depression has kind of crossed over into not normal depression, but depression that's more controlled and actually crossed over into suicidal behavior and thoughts?
Usually, when you start thinking about things like being better off, not here, you start thinking about ways to not be in the situation anymore. You start thinking about, having increased depression, having all the things that I listed before about suicidal thoughts, and I'll talk about those in a second again. But when that amps up and you start thinking about ways that you can harm yourself, or you start just thinking about not being here anymore, those are red flags. And if any of that comes up at all, even if you don't have an intent to harm yourself, seek help. Go ahead and get ahead of it before it gets too heavy. That would be my advice on that, is definitely go ahead and ask for help. And it's scary to ask for help. Not a lot of people feel like they want to ask for help, but do it, for yourself or for somebody else. Everybody has a purpose to be here on this earth. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a plan. Everybody has the ability to encourage and reach other people. And, any chance you can to get ahead of those feelings, do it.
So since Jonghyun's death, many fans have actually committed suicide themselves or attempted suicide. And while that may seem extreme to some people, I've read that this is actually quite common when a person of influence dies, or especially when they commit suicide. Therefore, how seriously should we take it when friends of ours who are also fans of Jonghyun begin to talk about suicide and wanting to die?
Like I said before, it's always better to err on the side of caution. Mm-hmm. And you or I or anybody else who are dealing with someone who is a friend or a family member, you can't get in their brain and figure out whether they're going to do it or not, or if they're serious. And like I said before, sometimes people won't even hint at it. They'll just do it. But any signs that you see, the depression, the withdrawal from family, any kind of destructive behavior, any kind of reckless behavior, the poor eating habits, the sleeping habits, any of that, trust your gut. Look for help for them. Ask them if they're suicidal. Really, get in their face and ask them. If you love them that much, get in their face and ask them what's going on and get them help. But don't wait till, you see a set of signs and symptoms to do something. Sometimes it's too late. But if you see any changes in their behavior, or if you start hearing, different things coming from them, you may need to intervene.
Now, if people are facing suicidal thoughts themselves, what should they do? Are there immediate steps to take when facing a crisis, or what about long-term steps that they should consider?
One thing that I believe in is having a plan before that even comes up. I think everyone to a certain degree, has had suicidal thoughts in their life. And it's something that you need to prepare for. Everyone needs to prepare for. It's kind of like having a fire. We don't do the fire drill while the building is on fire. We do the drill and we have a plan so that when it does happen, we know what to do to get out and be safe. I think it's very important to have a list of resources, not just resources, but actual people in our lives. Okay, if I start feeling this way, I'm going to call so-and-so. I'm going to call my best friend. I'm going to call my pastor. I'm going to call my mom, my dad, my brother, sister, whoever. Have a good, solid list so that if you call one of them, they don't answer, you can go right down the line. Have this written out and put somewhere that you can get your hands on it. And then, there's other resources that you can reach out to with social media, over the telephone, texting. There's national resources here in the States. There's also international resources. So, just have a list, have a piece of paper that says, okay, if I feel bad, this is what I'm going to do. This is my plan.
Well, we have one last question from an anonymous reader, and this is what they had to say. I'm really struggling with feeling guilty. Jonghyun was open about having depression, but he always seemed so bright and positive that it seems like we didn't take it seriously enough. Looking back, it seems like there were so many warning signs. In live videos where he chatted about his depression and asked for help to get through. Even in the stage performance of Y Si Fuera Ella, where he pretended to commit suicide after having his heart broken. It seems like there were so many red flags that we missed, and I feel like as fans we should have been better in tune to notice it and try to encourage him. Even because he had so many mean comments and hate that he received from anti-fans and the public, I feel like we should have worked harder to make him feel loved and supported. How do I deal with the feelings of guilt? He helped me through so much through his music, and I can't help but feel like we felt him in turn. What would you say to this reader?
That's very tough. That's a very tough place to be, and very difficult feelings that she's going through. But what it sounds like a survivor's guilt, which unfortunately is normal in this situation too. We feel guilty, like, there should have been more that I could have done, and something I could have said, or why did, hindsight's 20/20, why didn't I see that, or why couldn't I have intervened? Unfortunately, that's part of the grieving process after a death or a loss or suicide. But he chose, unfortunately, he chose and felt that was the only relief or the only way out for him. But he made that choice. And in this situation, when it's a celebrity, it's very difficult or very different than someone who's your best friend or someone that you see day to day and you have a close proximity relationship with. Celebrities are difficult to get in contact with. We don't see them one-on-one, so that makes it even harder, obviously, to get in touch with this person and try to intervene. Again, that's a lot of that is survivor's guilt, and hopefully down the road some of that will pass.
Well, depression and suicidal thoughts, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, can definitely affect everyone, from the rich to the poor, famous to the normal. So for those that are listening right now and maybe struggling with their own suicidal thoughts or depression or anxiety, what would you say to them? What advice could you give them?
Reach out to somebody. If you go to the doctor, if you go to a family, if you call one of the resources that we're going to give you in just a second, pastor, family, somebody, coworker, reach out to somebody that you feel like has, that you kind of have a relationship with and that you trust, even just a little bit. It's very important, because you're too important not to. You need to take care of yourself. We see so many negative and hear so much negative day after day after day. And unfortunately, sometimes we tell ourselves negative things day after day after day. So we need to really say, you know what, I've got to take care of myself. I've got to start thinking better about myself. I've got to advocate for myself. So, reaching out to somebody is the first step in getting that taken care of. The resources, they're all over fortunately, there's resources all over the internet. Now, I understand in different places and different cultures and in different countries, it's harder to reach out than it would be in other places. That's when, you need to just be on a search to find someone to reach out and help you. Find counseling if you can. There's a lot of counseling centers out there that you don't necessarily have to have insurance to go to. You can have, sometimes they'll do it for free. It just depends on the counseling center. So there's help, but you need to reach out. You need to give yourself that gift of reaching out and asking for help, because you're worth it. You are worth it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done, where you've been, what kind of background you have, what you've been through. There's healing available, but you have to reach out for it. And I really, really, really hope that you do.
I do too. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us tonight, for answering these questions. I know that that even some of these questions were ones that I had myself. I know that a lot of our listeners also do. So I thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to answer these questions, and also just to give us this practical advice and things. Now, you mentioned some resources. Are there specific resources that you would recommend to people listening?
There's several that we use here in Georgia, and that are nationwide, but there's also some international resources that I've found. There's a website called suicide.org, and it has a full list of crisis hotline numbers based on the country. Okay. So you can go out there and click and find the country that you're in, and it'll give you addresses, phone numbers, the whole 9 yards. There's also what they call suicidestop.com, and they offer online chat rooms or support groups all over the world. I think that's an international ministry too, but they an online chat room or support group might be something that's encouraging too. Just be careful which one you get into. If it's positive and encouraging, stick with it, but if there's a lot of negativity, you may want to find something else. Here in the U.S., there's a national suicide prevention hotline. That number is 1-800-273-TALK, TALK, and it's 8255 are the last four numbers. The Suicide and Crisis Hotline is another one that we use. It's 1-800-999-9999. That's kind of an easy one to remember. And then here in Georgia, we have the Georgia Crisis and Access Line. This is one that you can call if you're in a crisis, or you can call to get information about counseling resources or inpatient or outpatient information for substance abuse issues. Their number is 1-800-715-4225. Another resource that I refer to is Focus on the Family. They are a Christian-based website. They have a ton of stuff out there, and they also have a helpline that's available between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. That's Mountain Time, and their number is 1-855-771-HELP, and the last four of that number is 4357. So hopefully we'll have these posted later for everybody to use.
Yes, we'll definitely we'll be putting together the links and the pages and numbers that Jenny's recommended, and we'll be making sure to share them in our chat room for our homepage on WTKRadio.com, as well as on all the social media for What the Kpop. So Jenny, thank you so much again for taking your time to answer these questions, for really giving us such great advice about what we can do with these three topics, both grieving, depression, and suicidal thought, behavior, and just what we can do to prevent another tragedy like this from occurring, whether it be someone that we've admired and respected from a distance, or if it's someone that's in our own daily life. So I think it's such an important topic, and that's why we wanted to get your help with it, to really be able to address this professionally and to be able to help all the listeners that wrote in. So Jenny, thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Any last words for the listeners?
One thing that I want to say is that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Our moods and our feelings and our thought patterns change daily. We can feel one way one day and one day the next. So I want people to remember that it's something that's a permanent solution to something that's temporary, and there's a lot of good coming. There's a lot of hope left still in the world, and there's a lot of positivity. We need to seek it out, and instead of looking at the darkness and looking at the negativity as much as possible. So I just want to encourage everyone to hang on. And look for better days, look for more positive things in lives, and really seek out what the truth is to them.
Well, thank you so much, SHINee. I appreciate that, and I know that I also hope the same for our listeners and our readers at What the K-Pop, that they'll just hold on for better days, and that there is hope available. So thank you so much again, Jenny. I hope that you have a wonderful night, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of our first hour. I hope that this first hour of our program proved to be helpful as we dealt with the topics of grief, depression, and suicide prevention. I also hope you enjoyed some of the songs that we played as well. Now, we don't want to make things too heavy because, of course, Jonghyun, although the decision that he made to take his life was so unfortunate, and his death was so unfortunate and such a tragedy, we don't want to just focus on how he died. We want to focus on the amazing life that he lived and all the joy that he brought to people. As such, I personally find SHINee super hilarious. I've always been a fan of theirs for a very long time, actually, and I've always found such joy out of their videos and things because they're just such funny people. So I asked on What the K-Pop for people to share their favorite SHINee or Jonghyun moment. Now, I have to start off by sharing my favorite, and probably this has got to be my all-time favorite apart from their music. If you guys remember when they were in a waiting room for a music show, they were reenacting one of their old commercials, and I know that you're probably already knowing which one I'm talking about. It's where they all did the crump and everything. So the other members were all in the waiting room and talking about it and reenacting their part of this kind of cringe-worthy commercial. When Jonghyun opened the door, without missing a beat, they said, "Crump, crump." And as soon as they did that, he knew exactly what they were talking about and started to reenact his part of the commercial. But what he didn't realize was Minho had just been spraying the floor with water for some reason, and so he slipped and fell on the floor, and of course what ensued was absolute hilarity because they were all hysterical laughing. Minho's funny laugh, Key's funny laugh. Jonghyun was like doing his super hardcore or silent laugh, and it was just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So when I asked you guys about your favorite moments, a lot of you also listed that one just by saying things like crump, crump. So a lot of you also agreed with me on that one. Another one, comes from Brittany Parker, and she said another good one besides Crump is Jongmi from Knowing Bros. If you guys watch Knowing Bros, Jonghyun had to dress up like a girl for a skit, and it was hilarious. Ida Izquierdo also said Jongmi from Knowing Bros. Jessica Gonzalez said whenever he talked about his mom and or older sister, Rue as well, it always warms my heart. Neneng Devita, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name right, but she said there are so many moments whenever he played with Rue or any other dog he encountered. Also, whenever SHINee got to role play on radio shows or variety shows. And then she also shared one of her favorites. She said when he was really good at playing the mom. So I'll drop the link for SHINee, the Messy Family role play, in our group chat on WTKRadio.com. I think you guys will find it as funny as I did. Now, if you are not connected on our group chats or things, I know it's a little bit different because it's not one of our typical radio parties where everyone connects and chats. But if you go to WTKRadio.com and scroll down to the bottom of the page, there is a group chat. So I'll be sharing some of the things like the links that we mentioned for the resources that Jenny recommended, as well as some of these videos and stuff that we'll be talking about. So in just 1 second, I'll share the Messy Family Roleplay video for you guys, as well as the Crump Crump, because in case you have not seen it, you definitely need to watch it. It is hilarious. It will definitely make you smile. So if you are on the group chat, send us one of your favorite funny moments. If you're just listening in on the TuneIn app or something like that, and you just want to tweet us, then tweet us at WhatTheKpop1. Send us a message on Facebook, and let us know what your favorite funny Jonghyun moment is. To keep things a little lighter, we want to go with one of our favorite songs and a classic SHINee song, Ring Ding Dong.
Baby, 내게 반해버린 내게 왜 이래 두렵다고 물러서지 말고 그냥 내게 맡겨봐라 어때 My lady 너를 만난 첫 순간 눈이 번쩍 머리 스탑 베리딩동 울렸어 난 말야 멋진 놈 착한 놈 그런 놈은 아니지만 나름대로 괜찮은 bad boy 너도 마치 butterfly 너무 얕게 빠졌어 너무 순해 빠졌어 널 곁에 둬야겠어 더는 걱정 마 나만 믿어보면 되잖아 네가 너무 맘에 들어 놓칠 수 없는 걸 내가 숨을 멈출 수 oh crazy 너무 예뻐 견딜 수 oh crazy 너 아니면 필요 없다 crazy 나 왜 이래 콜라 so fantastic 콜라 so elastic fantastic elastic ring ding dong ding ding dong ding 지금 만든다 ring ding dong ding dong I call you butterfly 날이 가면 갈수록 못이 박혀 너란 걸 헤어날 수 없다는 걸 나를 선택해 돌이키지 말고 선택해 내게 빠진 바보인 날 책임져야 돼 내가 숨을 멈출 수 oh crazy 너무 예뻐 견딜 수 oh crazy 너 아니면 필요 없다 crazy 나 왜 이래 난 착한 두근거리 너를 이해 못하겠어 너무 가끔씩 그런 부정 이미지를 탈피 이탈해봐 괜찮아 break out ring ding ding 사실 난 불안해 어떻게 날 보는지 점점 내게 호감을 갖고 있는지 너랑 들부정할 수밖에 없어 돌이킬 수 없는 걸 절대 노란 대답하 나 괜찮은 남자라 내가 미쳐버릴지 몰라 This silly girl You're my miracle 너만 가질 수 있다면 내겐 더 필요 없는 걸 내가 숨을 멈출 수 oh crazy 너무 예뻐 견딜 수 oh crazy 너 아니면 필요 없다 crazy 나 왜 이래 We wanna go 콜라 so fantastic 콜라 so elastic fantastic elastic ding dong ding dong 지금 만든다 ring ding dong
And we are back. Now, if you're just now joining us, this is What the K-Pop special memorial broadcast in honor of the late and the amazing Kim Jonghyun of SHINee. Now, that last song was Ring Ding Dong, of course, such a classic SHINee song. And we are going to be playing another one of my favorite songs coming up next as we go into the next section of our broadcast. But first of all, I had a few more funny things that fans had sent in that they said that they really loved about Jonghyun, or even just performances that they loved. A couple of you guys responded that one of your favorite performances was Y Si Fuera Ella. We actually mentioned that we were talking with Jenny about the stage performance of this, but that song was so incredibly beautiful. It was a song from Alejandro Sanz, and Jonghyun actually wrote lyrics for it in Korean, and it was so beautiful and so great, and he just did such an amazing job. If you haven't seen it, again, I'll drop the link in the group chat on WTKRadio.com. Someone else said that they really enjoyed, they really enjoyed when his members tried to mock his singing in Excuse Me Miss in SHINee World 4 in Seoul. Also, she says him singing Hey Ya or Y Si Fuera Ella. And another person, Brooklyn Brumley, says all of his SNL moments were hilarious to me, especially the skit where he had to seduce the young lady of the house. Also the airplane skit. If you guys have never watched Jonghyun on Saturday Night Live, it is so worth watching. It was hilarious. The airplane skit that he did was absolute gold. It was really funny. Again, if you haven't seen it, I'll try to find the links on YouTube for you guys and drop them in the group chat because they are really, really funny. And someone else, Kyler Ian McKenna, says that one of their favorite moments is when all the other SHINee members basically rocketed him out of the closet, and they were teasing him, of course, and they asked him in 10 years if he would marry a man or a woman, and he said a woman, and they all acted genuinely surprised, and then informed him that in 10 years, if he married a guy, it wouldn't be a big deal by then. It was really funny. Actually, when she shared that moment, I had never seen it before, so I asked her to share the video or something. She sent it to me, so again, I'll drop that in the group chat. It was quite funny. You could tell that he really didn't know what to say, and they just thought it was, I guess, hilarious that they were teasing him. So a lot of really cute moments, a lot of funny moments that Jonghyun did. Alyssa Joy Yoshida says, literally every moment and Hello Baby. Alyssa, I agree with you 100%. Hello Baby is one of my favorite things in all of K-pop. It was this great reality show where SHINee raised a child. It was so funny. Jonghyun was hilarious. Everyone was just so funny with the baby. And a classic line from that, is this the reality that you guys wanted? How many of you remember that? It was so funny. So a lot of great moments. So we're going to listen to one more kind of upbeat, fun song, and that would be Lucifer, one of my favorites. So here you go.
심장을 꺾인 채 놓지 않는 것처럼 아직까지도 넌 그렇게 내 맘을 따따따따따따 가져놓고 네가 없으면 내 맘이 따타버리게 만든다 나를 복독하던다면 사랑도 묶인 채 미래도 묶인 채 터질 수 없는데 자유롭게 비워놓고 바라봐 오직 너만 채울게 너만 가득 채울게 Loverholic, Lovertronic, Loverholic, Lovertronic 너와 같이 넌 사랑 얘기들 나랑 같은 곳을 바라봐
you're just now joining us, this is Amy, your DJ for tonight here on this WTK Radio broadcast in honor of the late Kim Jonghyun of SHINee. We have another special guest on air tonight, and that is Miss Teresa Santosky, author of the book Prayers for Opa. Teresa, it's great to have you join us tonight, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Can you introduce yourself to everyone and start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to participate in such an important conversation. As you said, my name is Teresa Santosky. In addition to being the author of Prayers for Opa, which is a devotional prayer book for performers and their fans, I'm also an editor for Living Life and Senna English, which are two English-language Christian magazines that are based in Seoul.
Now, Teresa, Prayers for Opa is a book that I've read myself and I've recommended to many people. So for those that are not familiar with it yet, though, can you tell everyone a little bit about it?
Certainly. Prayers for Opa has 20 devotionals that are on topics of interest to performers. These are things that they deal with in their careers on a regular basis. Issues like loneliness, fatigue, and performance safety, for example. Each devotional has a brief reflection that sets the topic in the context of the performer's work, a prayer the performer can pray for themselves, a prayer that fans can pray for the performer, and related Bible verses for both the performer and the fans. And the book is intended for all performers, not just those who would qualify as an Opa. Prayers for Opa is just a fun title in that respect.
So that's one thing that I personally found interesting about the book is that it's not just aimed at fans only, that it also is a book that performers themselves can use. So how can you tell us how you came up with that idea, or was it your love of K-pop combined with your writing skills that kind of motivated you to write a book about this topic, or what really inspired you to do this?
Well, I've been interested in East Asian entertainment and culture since I was very young. It's something that's always had a presence in my life, and it's something that's brought me a lot of joy over the years. And I wanted to do something meaningful for these performers who are so talented and who work so hard to entertain. And to me, the most meaningful way to support someone is to pray for them. And that's kind of where the idea for this book began.
Now, for some people that are listening, as I think I've mentioned this to you before, since you are familiar with what the K-pop, but we have a lot of different readers from all around the world. So, of course, we have people from different walks of life and religion and things. So, for those who may find this kind of a foreign topic or may not believe as you do, tell us why do you think it is that prayer is such an important part of supporting our K-pop idols?
Well, when you pray for someone, you're essentially asking God to help them. And given how stressful and challenging work can be for these performers, they need all the help they can get. And who better to ask than God himself? And there's no request that's too big for him to handle, and no request that's too small or insignificant to bring to his attention.
Teresa, when tragedy like this does happen, as recently did with Jonghyun of SHINee, a lot of people tend to turn to God and look for answers. Do you think that maybe this book could help people like that who may not necessarily already believe like you do, or who may not kind of believe in God or believe in the power of prayer? Do you think this book could still help people like that?
Oh, absolutely. Prayers for Opa is rooted in the Bible, and it offers an overview of a number of difficult topics. So that makes it a great starting point for people who are curious about how a loving God fits into the challenges and the struggles that we experience in life.
And like what you said a minute ago, that the topics range from everything from like performance safety and different things like that, and encouragement. So it's not even necessarily that people are using the book to pray for quote, what we might term like spiritual topics, like their relationship with God or something. It's a way for people to also pray about these practical needs as well. Is that right?
Oh, definitely. One of the prayers that I've used a lot over the years has been safe travel, especially after the terrible tragedy that happened with Ladies Code and their car accident. It really did reinforce that, there is a need for prayers for safe travel for these performers, since they're on the road at all hours of the day and night and in all kinds of weather conditions. So yes, there is definitely an emphasis on praying for practical needs as well as physical needs such as good health and emotional needs such as being able to deal with gossip and rumors.
I had one final question about people when they're turning to God, kind of when tragedy strikes. Why do you think that happens? Because we do see it quite often, no matter what it is, whether it's, natural disasters or, different things, different problems, deaths in your family, financial problems. It seems like people tend to turn to God when these problems strike. So, some people think that looking for answers from a higher power is just a weakness or a crutch when bad things happen. So what would you say to our listeners who are searching for peace or faith or answers right now, even though maybe their family and their friends or their, colleagues may not understand their need to do so?
Well, tragedy reminds us that we have very limited control over our circumstances. And it's only natural that we turn to God, who is sovereign and loving, and ask him why something turned out the way it did. And turning to God and looking for answers is not a sign of weakness. It takes a great deal of strength and a lot of courage to admit that we don't know everything and to trust the one who does.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that is hard for people to understand in this world too, is that there is a plan for our lives, that he is worthy of our trust, and that it's a difficult thing to do, to place trust in someone and to trust that there's a purpose for our life, and but I believe it is very necessary to do. But Korean celebrities and idols in particular, they face a lot of pressure from all sides. So not only do they have a stressful job, of course, and really exhausting schedules, traveling all the time, and much more, but they also face a lot of criticism from netizens. So why do you think today that people feel such freedom to criticize celebrities from behind the, just their computer screens where no one knows who they are? Why do you think that? Why do you think this happened?
I've noticed that it doesn't just happen to celebrities. I've seen fans tear each other apart online because they felt that one fan was getting more attention from a performer, or because that fan didn't like a performer's latest concept. And I believe that as a society, we've become very comfortable with the anonymity and the immediacy that define the internet. We've become accustomed to responding to things in the heat of the moment without taking time to reflect and process, and without considering the effect our words may have on others. And we don't really experience any negative consequences for doing this. It actually tends to be the opposite. People will like what we say or retweet what we say. People will agree with us. And that makes us feel justified in saying what we did, even if it was cruel or unfounded or unnecessary. And we move on to the next hot topic, looking for more opportunities for validation and affirmation, and the person that we posted about could be negatively affected for years to come.
But, apart from normal netizens and internet users who just briefly comment on things and comments and post in social media, idols also gain a lot of attention from true anti-fans. And to me, there's a difference in just a kind of netizens who enjoy hating on people, because they tend to enjoy hating on a variety of people. But then there are anti-fans who specifically, just gang up against a certain person. So in Korea, we've seen that a lot. People like Girls' Generation's Taeyeon, or even FX's Sully, and recently even EXO's Baekhyun, they've all gained a lot of anti-fans for seemingly no reason. So where do you feel like this whole anti-fan culture comes from? Because while netizens and their hateful comments are also very common in America and other parts of the world, it does seem like the organized pages and clubs formed of anti-fans who gather in their common hatred against an idol. It seems like that kind of organized hatred and anti-fans is much more common in Korea. So, why do you think that is?
And I'd say that the anti-fan culture is more common in Korea simply because it mirrors the existing fan culture. The fan culture there is very organized in its support, so it would make sense that anti-fan groups are likewise very organized and very coordinated.
So what do you think are some actual practical ways that fans can try to support their idols?
One practical form of support I've come up with is the Prayers for Oppa Performer Prayer Challenge. And the goal of that is to encourage fans to pray for performers and send them Bible verses and encouraging messages through social media. And the full details of the prayer challenge are available on my website. You would go to teresasantosky.com and click on the link to the devotional, and that should pop up right there. If you're an international fan especially, social media is your main form of contact with these performers. So you should use it to build them up and let them know that they're appreciated and cared for.
And I do feel like, especially as social media is one of the places, or perhaps the biggest place, where the criticism and the anti-fans and things gather, that it should maybe be the focus of international fans to use that same space to kind of overshadow all the hate, I guess. Okay. Besides prayer, it does seem like there is a further need for supporting idols in a tangible way. As evidenced with Jonghyun, it seems like the criticism of netizens and the hate of anti-fans was a big part in what motivated him to unfortunately take his life. So how do you think that we as fans can truly kind of counterattack this hatred online and support our idols in a more positive way?
Well, I would encourage fans to set an example with their own behavior. You have a choice as to whether you engage with gossip or inflammatory comments. You're not obligated to weigh in on every issue that comes up on your timeline. So think before you post. Don't allow yourself to be dragged into fan wars and needless drama. Realize that your words have weight and use them to build up and encourage others, not tear them down. Treat other people with mercy and be gracious to forgive their mistakes, just as you would want them to forgive yours. I think that, especially with younger people who have grown up with social media, there's a tendency to use it as a diary or as a stream of consciousness, and sometimes that can lead to sharing things that might not be appropriate or might be hurtful. Things that you felt or experienced in the heat of the moment, but aren't things that you would be proud to remember you had posted a few days later. So it's something to keep in mind.
Now, I had one more question for you is before we end the call for tonight, but is there any final advice that you can give to people who are looking to make sense of this horrible tragedy with Jonghyun?
I would say talk to God about what you're dealing with and take your time to wrestle with the difficult questions. There's no deadline for healing, and I'd also encourage people to focus on how they can make a difference in these circumstances. There are plenty of performers and plenty of fellow fans who would benefit from your encouragement and your support and your prayers.
It was really great and very practical advice just about making our online community a better place, Teresa. So I do thank you for sharing all your wisdom and your advice with us tonight. Now, for those listening, Teresa actually has a surprise for us. So, Teresa, do you want to tell everybody what you have?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be giving away a copy of my Prayers for Oppa devotional book through WTK Kpop. and it's very easy to enter the giveaway. All you have to do is send a message to What the Kpop and just tell them why you would be interested in having the book.
Great, Teresa. We appreciate that very much. Now, if you want to enter to win a copy of Teresa's book, Prayers for Opa, then you can contact us in a variety of different ways. If you're listening on our homepage for WTKRadio.com, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and leave us a comment in the group chat there. You can also tweet us at WhatTheKpop1 or send us a message on our Facebook pages, which are facebook.com/WhatTheKpop. Or the radio Facebook page is facebook.com/WTK Radio. Now, we'll share those links again at the end of the night, so don't worry if you didn't catch them right now. We'll remind you how to enter again before the night is over, and then we'll be sending Teresa's book to a lucky fan. Well, Teresa, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. I've really appreciated your thoughts and your honesty. I know these are some pretty difficult topics to cover, so it was a help to me. I'm sure it's been a help for others. We wish you the best of luck and really do appreciate you talking with us here tonight on WTK Radio's broadcast in honor of SHINee's Jonghyun. Thank you so much, Teresa. We hope that you have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Welcome back to the broadcast, you guys. If you're just now joining us, this is Amy, and I'm the DJ for tonight on the special broadcast from What the Kpop in honor of SHINee's Jonghyun. We have reached the final section of our tonight. If you've been keeping up with our schedule, the first hour we talked about grief, depression, and suicide prevention. Then we spent some time with the author of Prayers for Opa, Teresa Santoski, and she gave us some great practical advice about how to support our idols, especially in the face of netizens and anti-fans. For the next half hour, to end out our program, we're going to be playing some of the best music from Jonghyun and just some of the best music that will honor Jonghyun. First up, we have It Must Be Autumn. Now, if you guys listen to my show, normally I broadcast on Wednesday nights. And for the month of October, November, I had a show called It Must Be Autumn. The reason that I had this show is because I love this song so much by Jonghyun. And so, therefore, I named my show after his song. And it's a very special song to me. It has a lot of memories for me. And so, therefore, I wanted to make sure to play it, even though it's not technically fall right now. It's just such a special song and very important to me in my own memories of Jonghyun. So I wanted to share that one. After that, we'll be listening to Jonghyun with one of his BFFs, Miss Taeyeon from Girls' Generation, as they sing Lonely. Now, we are going to be listening to a lot of his music, and some of them will be a little sad. Some of them won't be, some of them, we don't want to make it too depressing. We want it to be something that can just honor his memory, but also honor his life, his art, his extreme love of music, and his incredibly beautiful voice that touched so many lives. So we want to honor his whole entire life and just the amazing artist that he was. But as we do that, we do want to get started with It Must Be Autumn and Lonely. I hope you enjoy as we listen to these two beautiful songs.
가을이긴 한가 봐 괜히 설렌 걸 보면 이미 너에겐 별 의미 없는 안부인 살 텐데 가을이긴 한가 봐 괜히 울컥하는 걸 보면 잠도 안 오고 내 생각 문득 나건 좀 할 텐데 조용히 울린 전화에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 가을이 한참 물들었나 봐 맘속 깊이 들어왔나 봐 잘 사는 네 인사에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 내 맘도 한참 물들었나 봐 네가 깊이 들어왔나 봐 나 참 바보같이 혹시나 있어 네 맘은 이젠 초록빛으로 화사해졌을 텐데 반짝빛이 날 텐데 난 몇 해가 지나도 가을 넘어 또 가을이 왔나 조용히 울린 전화에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 가을이 한참 물들었나 봐 맘속 깊이 들어왔나 봐 잘 사는 네 인사에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 내 맘도 한참 물들었나 봐 네가 깊이 들어왔나 봐 멀쩡한 듯 말했지만 다시는 일인 듯 말했지만 오늘도 여기서 하루 종일 서 있어 조용히 울린 전화에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 가을이 한참 물들었나 봐 맘속 깊이 들어왔나 봐 잘 사냐 네 인사에 쉽게 무너진 걸 보니 벌써 내 맘도 한참 물들었나 봐 네가 깊이 들어왔나 봐 미안해 내 탓이야 고마워 덕분이야 툭하면 내뱉던 네 그 말버릇 너도 힘든 걸 난 다 아는데 아마 넌 내가 바본 줄 아나 봐
우는 얼굴로 나 힘들다 하면 정말 나아질까 그럼 누가 힘들까 아프다 징징대면 모두 다 괜찮아지는데
아마 너와 난 착각 속에 서로를 가둬둔지 몰라
아니야 너는 날 이해 못해 걱정 어린 네 눈을 볼 때면
Baby I'm so lonely so lonely 나는 혼자 있는 것만 같아요 지친 널 볼 때면 내가 너에게 혹시 짐이 될까 많이 버거울까
Baby I'm so lonely so lonely 나도 혼자 있는 것만 같아요 그래도 너에게 티내기 싫어 나는 혼자 찾는 게 더 익숙해 날 이해해줘
우린 함께 있지만 같이 걷질 않잖아 외로움과 괴로움 기억 하나 차인 건데 넌 왜 자꾸 다르게만 적으려 하는 건지
Baby I'm so lonely so lonely
나는 혼자 있는 것만 같아요
그래도 너에게 혼자 있는 것만 같아요. Baby, I'm so lonely, so lonely. 나도 혼자 있는 것만 같아요. 그래도 너에게 숨기기 싫어. 나는 혼자 참는 게 더 익숙해. 날 이해해줘.
Welcome back, you guys. As I said, those last two songs were Jonghyun with It Must Be Autumn, and the second song was Jonghyun featuring Taeyeon from Girls' Generation with Lonely. If you live in the Atlanta area, you might have come to the memorial that we helped hold for Jonghyun in Piedmont Park. If you don't live locally and you weren't able to come, then I wanted to share this poem with you guys that I was able to read at the memorial. I think it was very appropriate because I feel like this perfectly describes what we're feeling. We're all so heartbroken and grieving over the loss of just such an amazing human being, someone that was so kind and compassionate, so loving. He was not the least bit judgmental. He was so accepting of everyone and just so kind. And as we grieve the loss of just such a wonderful individual, I think it's also important that we rejoice because of the life that he lived. And as I was looking for things that maybe, I could share at the memorial service that we held in Atlanta, I found this poem and I thought it was so appropriate. It says, "We can shed tears that he has gone, or we can smile because he has lived. We can close our eyes and pray that he will come back, or we can open our eyes and see all that he has left. Our hearts can be empty because we can't see him, or we can be full of the love that we shared. We can turn our back on tomorrow and live for yesterday, or we can be happy tomorrow because of yesterday. We can remember him and only that he is gone, or we can cherish his memory and let it live on. We can cry and close our minds, be empty and turn our backs, or we could do what he'd want, smile, open our eyes, love, and go on." With that in mind, we're going to listen to Wiz Khalifa featuring Charlie Puth with "See You Again," and then I thought it would be nice to listen to Jonghyun's song "Y Si Fuera Ella." So many people mentioned it, and even though it does have some kind of tragic connotation with it, it is such a beautiful song, and it just perfectly showcases what a musical genius he was, not just with his voice, but with the lyrics and just his musicality. So I wanted to listen to those two songs. I hope you enjoy.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. See you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
I see you again.
We've come a long way,
Came a long way
from where we began.
You know we started.
Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
I'll tell you.
When I see you again.
out your way and the vibe is feeling strong. And what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken. The love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach. So remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
미안하단 말은 말야 언젠가 아주 먼 그때 마지막에 하지 않을래. 그래야 지금 이 아픈 시간도 훗날 좋은 추억이라 웃으며 말하고 있을 우리일 테니까 말이야. 말했었지 그저 좋은 친구의 가슴으로 날 사랑하는 것이라 영원한 거라고. 그런 말 다신 하지만 내겐 너무 가벼운, 그러나 내겐 너무 무거운 이 마음이 너를 힘들게 했구나. 조금은 물러설게, 기다릴게. 네가 편하도록 멀리 서 있을게. 이리 애원하잖아. 어찌 떠나려는 거야. 웃는 그 눈으로 안녕이란 잔인한 말은 나를 죽이고 숨이 멈춰. 행복하게 해주던 그 멜로디가 아직 너무 찬란하다. 제발 버리지 마. 살고 싶지 않아. 없지 않아. 너는 날 얻지 않아. 아예 모른 채 살 것은 이렇게 미친 속 슬플 줄이야. 어찌 떠나려는 거야. 안녕이란 그런 잔인한 말로 떠나버리는 너를 원망하겠지로. 제발 가지 마라 해야. 해야 너는 말했었지 그저 친구의 가슴을 사랑하는 것이라 영원하다고. 그런 말 다신 하지 하지만 내게 너무 가벼운 그러나 내게 너무 무거운 네 마음이 너를 힘들게 했구나 조금은 물러설게 기다릴게 네가 변하도록 멀리 서 있을게 이리에 원하잖아 어찌 떠나려는 거야 안녕이란 그런 잔인한 말로 떠나버리는 널 원망하겠지요 제발 가지 마라 해야 아예 모른 채 살 것은 이렇게 미치도록 슬플 줄이야 해야 나를 떠나려는 거야 안녕이란 그런 잔인한 사뿐이 어떤 나를 원망하고 또 원망하겠지 해야 제발 가지 마라 해야 가지 마라
Isn't that such a beautiful song? The song that's playing in the background right now is actually by Jonghyun and Heritage. It's called Your Voice, and it was a special song released for SM Station. There are literally so many wonderful songs by just Jonghyun, not even counting all the SHINee songs, but just Jonghyun, that it was impossible to really try to narrow them down. I have hours and hours of music that I could play for you guys, so that's why I'm going to play some of in the background as well. If you haven't heard the song, definitely check it out. Jonghyun and Heritage, Your Voice for SM Station. I wanted to share something with you guys before the next song plays. Jonghyun, as we know, wasn't just an amazing vocalist. He wasn't just an amazing producer and songwriter and lyricist. He was also a published author. Now, some casual fans may not know that, but he actually had written a book, called Skeleton Flower, The Things That Have Drifted Away and Things That Have Been Set Free. And I find that really kind of an ironic title, I guess. But one of the things in his book was about a singer, a supposedly fictional singer. But listen to this. It was a singer who finds comfort in his mother, his sister, and his pet dog. And in one chapter, someone is interviewing the singer, and this is what he has to say. The thing about loneliness is that I don't see it as something simple that will just disappear once it's been appeased. You could say that it's like a shadow that walks with you for all your life. Still, once in a while, I feel the need for something to comfort me. But as the things I mentioned to you earlier are embracing me so fully, I'm going through a healthy loneliness right now. A healthy loneliness, you say? That's an interesting way to put it. Is it? I think that sort of thing is necessary, a method of consoling yourself that only you can understand and no one else. Some days you feel lonely, some days you feel worn out, and some days you might feel idiotic or pathetic even, though of course there are many days where you feel cheerful in between. The important thing is that since the remaining days of our lives stretch out so far that they seem to have no end, there needs to be something that can neutralize whatever emotion you might have. Whether my day is a happy or sad one, I don't filter any of them out. As my tumultuous emotions quietly subside, the graph of my condition for the day returns more or less to average, you see. I enjoy dramatic remedies, but the beginning and end would probably be better off as something neutral. For you too, anything will do. It doesn't have to be something complicated like mine. Whatever the method, if you wrap up your day in a similar way each time, it will ease your mind. I found this really heartbreaking, but I also found it very enlightening when I read it, and it kind of gave me a further glimpse into Jonghyun's mind. But I also think that he has some really good advice there, especially when he says that the things in between might be dramatic, but the beginning and the end just needs to be kind of average, just something neutral. And so I would encourage you to also live your life that way. Just your beginning and your end, let those be the normal things. Don't turn to dramatic ends or things. There might be trouble in between, but hang on and things will get better. As he said, if you wrap your day up in a similar way each time, then it will ease your mind. It will ease that loneliness. With that in mind, talking about the end of the day, I want to listen to Jonghyun's very beautiful song, End of the Day.
손을 뻗어줘 내 목을 감싸줘 좀 더 아래 내 어깨를 주물러줘 지쳐버린 하루 끝 이미 해가 떴어도 난 이제야 눈을 감으니 남들보다 늦게 문을 닫는 나의 하루에 장난스럽게 귓볼을 간지럽히며 하루 종일 다른 세상에 있었어도 우린 항상 하루 끝은 함께 하니까 너의 그 작은 어깨가 너의 그 작은 두 손이 지친 내 하루 끝 포근한 이불이 되고 수고했어요 정말 고생했어요 내게도 내 어깨가 뭉툭한 나의 두 손이 지친 너의 하루 끝 포근한 위로가 되기를 자연스레 나와 숨을 맞추고파 빈틈없이 널 감싸안는 욕조 속 물처럼 따뜻하게 또 하나도 빈틈없게 서툰 실수가 가득했던 창피한 내 하루 끝엔 너란 자랑거리 날 기다리니 너의 그 작은 어깨가 너의 그 작은 두 손이 지친 내 하루 끝 포근한 이불이 되고 수고했어요 정말 고생했어요 내게도 내 어깨가 뭉툭한 나의 두 손이 지친 너의 하루 끝 포근한 위로가 되기를 자연스레 나와 숨을 맞추고파 맘껏 울 수도 또 맘껏 웃을 수도 없는 지친 하루의 끝 그래도 그대 옆이면 어린아이처럼 징얼대다 숨 넘어가듯 웃다 나도 어색해진 나를 만나줘
We have reached the end of our broadcast for tonight, but I do have one final song that I want to play for you guys before we end. The song that's playing in the background right now, by the way, is called Goodbye for Now, and it's by Super Junior's Khyun. Next up, I wanted to let you guys listen to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's a very famous arrangement by a Hawaiian singer known as Is, and I think you'll really enjoy this song. But I didn't want to let things end on a sad note, you know. I firmly believe that there is hope for all of us. I firmly believe that there's a plan for all of us. And if you've been listening the whole night, I know it's been a long broadcast, but there was so much that we needed to say and needed to cover. But I'm going to say something from me, myself. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are loved more than you could possibly imagine. God loves you so much. I know that you are not alone. I know that you are cared for and adored by someone in this world. You may feel alone, you may feel like you've got nothing going for you, you may feel like no one understands, but it's not true, okay? God loves you, I love you, and genuinely, whoever you are, wherever you are, I love you. The whole entire reason that I wanted to do this broadcast tonight was because I care about you, and I wanted to be able to offer you guys some help in whatever humble way that I could provide it, and so I chose to do that through this radio show. You are special, you are beautiful inside and out, you're an amazing person, you have potential, you have so much to offer this world, and you have so much to give in your life. If you are struggling with grief, I promise you're going to get through this. If you're struggling with depression, I know that you can get through this. And if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts or behavior, then I encourage you, please reach out and get some help. As the show ends, I will be dropping all of the links that our counselor shared earlier. If you need anything, honest to goodness, please contact What the Kpop. Our staff will be happy to talk with you guys, happy to put you in touch with a counselor or resources that are available in your area. Don't feel like you're alone. You're not. We love you. We care about you, and that is the truth. Okay, your life is so precious and so valuable, and I don't want you to make the same mistake that Jonghyun did. I want you to understand something. I've seen people kind of romanticizing that this was Jonghyun's only way out of suffering. That is not true, though. Jonghyun made a very unfortunate decision and succumbed as a casualty of depression. But that was not Jonghyun's only way out. I hope and pray that he is at peace now, and I do believe that he is. But suicide is never, ever the answer. It never has been, and it never will be. Your life is so valuable, and I encourage you not to throw it away lightly or not to treat it lightly, because you are truly so loved and special, and you have a purpose for your life, and you have something that you need to accomplish with your life. So please just don't give up. Just keep on keeping on. Truly, I just can't say it enough. If you need help, please reach out to someone. Reach out to us. We want to support you. We want to help you if at all possible. So I don't want to end things on a discouraging note. So know that there is hope available. And as Jenny said earlier, there's also healing available. You just have to be able to ask for help and to be able to get it. So with that in mind, let's listen to Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Someday wish upon a star. like lemon drops high above the chimney top. It's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you did to, oh why can't well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't
I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I hope this broadcast has been able to be a help to you. I hope it's been able to bring a little bit of healing to you. I do want to thank you for supporting What the K-Pop. I want to thank you for supporting the SHINee fandom during this time, and also just supporting Jonghyun and his family, as with all the beautiful memorials that have been going on and all the different fan things that I've been seeing being organized. When I was thinking about the very last song to play for tonight, I was thinking about that last song, but then this other song occurred to me called Rainbow Connection. It's this famous song. It was sung originally by Jim Henson from the Muppets. It's just a beautiful arrangement that I'm about to play for you guys, but there is a big misconception about artists being, struggling with mental issue and mental issues, and different things like that. And it's happened throughout centuries. People like Vincent van Gogh and different artists of their time are misunderstood and had different problems. And, I know that sometimes that you may feel misunderstood as well, especially if you are artistic. I don't want you to feel funny or feel strange or, weird. Artist, and that includes Jonghyun because he was an artist in every truest sense of the word. Artists just feel things so deeply, and it's like their brain operates on a different level because they're seeing things in a different way than the average person, and they're feeling things in a different way, and they want to express themselves in a different way. And I feel like that truly does lead to frustration because they don't maybe understand what the average person says and thinks it feels, and they can't truly connect and tell them what they are thinking and feeling and saying, just because they feel things so differently and on such a different level than us. But I also firmly believe that artists are one step ahead of us, because in music and things throughout history, you always hear about lovers and dreamers and artists, because I feel like they're operating just on a different level. And so it's like they're not meant for our world, or rather, and to avoid confusion on that, I'll just say our world is not good enough for them. Does that make sense? So if you are one of those, you feel a little isolated or different or strange, you're in good company, because you're in the company of all these amazing and talented musicians, artists, writers. So don't feel different, because when I was thinking about this song, Rainbow Connection, it basically is talking about how people make fun of you for chasing after rainbows, and they say, well, rainbows are just illusions, you know, they don't really exist. But the words then say, but one day we'll find it, the rainbow connection. But who's it going to be? It's going to be the lovers, the dreamers, and me that find it. So I want to encourage you, there is a rainbow. You keep chasing after it. Don't give up. You're going to find it. You're going to be the one to come out victorious. You're special and amazing. And I truly believe that each and every one of you will be able to conquer all those fears, reach your dreams, and find that rainbow at the end of your journey. And until then, I do wish you a very good night and happy listening. Next up is Peterson Cotty with Rainbow Connection to close out our special memorial broadcast here on What the K-Pop and WTK Radio in honor of the late and very great Kim Jonghyun of SHINee.
There's so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Stargazing, and what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell. Probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? 'Cause I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers,